brachiocephalic trunk, right common carotid and right subclavian artery. You already know that subclavian artery at the level of external edge of the first rib continues into axillary artery, that is arteria axillaris. And axillary artery then continues into brachial artery, arteria brachialis, and brachial artery in cubital fossa subdivides into arteria radialis and arteria ulnaris. Where is the border between axillary and brachial artery? That is posteriorly, that is musculus teres major, and anteriorly, that is lower edge of musculus pectoralis major. And axillary artery has three triangles. First, that is trigonum clavi pectorale between, no, it is clavicle, should be, between clavicle and superior edge of musculus pectoralis minor. Then pectoral triangle behind of musculus pectoralis minor, and subpectoral triangle between inferior edge of musculus pectoralis minor and inferior edge of musculus pectoralis major. Clavipectoral, pectoral, and subpectoral triangle. In first department, axillary artery gives arteria thoraca acromialis. It goes to acromioclavicular joint and supplies a capsule of shoulder joint and deltoid muscle. And arteria thoracica superior. Arteria thoracica superior goes to both pectoral muscles, musculus pectoralis major and minor. In pectoral triangle, only one artery leaves, that is arteria thoracica lateralis. It goes to serratus anterior and supplies it, and supplies mammary gland the same. And last, in subpectoral triangle, we have arteria circumflexa humeri anterior, then arteria circumflexa humeri posterior, and posterior artery goes into foramen quadrilaterum. And last branch, that is, and it is largest branch of axillary artery, that is arteria subscapularis. And arteria subscapularis subdivides into arteria circumflexa scapula. This artery passes through foramen trilaterum and goes to dorsal surface of scapula. And another branch, that is arteria thoraca dorsalis. Arteria thoraca dorsalis goes to musculus latissimus dorsi. The same, it supplies musculus teres major, musculus serratus anterior. And arteria circumflexa scapula, it makes anastomosis with arteria suprascapularis. Arteria suprascapularis from what? From truncus teres cervicalis. These two arteries makes anastomosis. Arteria suprascapularis from teres cervical trunk, and arteria circumflexa scapula from arteria subscapularis. It is good if you repeat the walls of quadrilaterum and trilaterum foramen. Here, that is a scapula. Here it is scapula. That is glenoid cavity. That is humerus. Anterior wall of anterior surface of scapula closed with musculus subscapularis. That is musculus subscapularis. And here it is musculus teres major. And here, that is long head of triceps, and long head of triceps start from tuberculum infraglenoidale, infraglenoid tubercle of scapula. And we can see foramen quadrilaterum and foramen trilaterum. Foramen quadrilaterum laterally, that is humerus, medially long head of triceps, superiorly musculus subscapularis and inferiorly teres major. And it is arteria circumflexa humeri posterior, together with axillary nerve. And in foramen trilaterum, we have arteria circumflexa scapular, laterally long head of triceps, inferiorly teres major and superiorly subscapularis. Now, arteria brachialis. Arteria brachialis, it gives largest branch, that is arteria profunda brachii. Arteria profunda brachii goes into the canal, that is canalis humoromuscularis, goes to posterior surface of the arm and subdivides into two terminal branches, arteria collateralis radialis and arteria collateralis media. From brachial arteries, the same, we have arteria collateralis ulnaris superior and arteria collateralis ulnaris inferior. These two arteries makes anastomosis, that is arteria ulnaris, and here it is arteria radialis. From arteria ulnaris we have arteria recurrens ulnaris, and it subdivides into recurrens ulnaris anterior and recurrens ulnaris posterior. Arteria recurrens ulnaris posterior makes anastomosis with arteria collateralis ulnaris superior, and arteria recurrens ulnaris inferior makes anastomosis with arteria collateralis ulnaris inferior. From radial artery, we have arteria recurrens radialis. Arteria recurrens radialis makes anastomosis with arteria collateralis radialis from profunda brachii. And from arteria ulnaris, we have arteria interossa communis. It subdivides into arteria interossa anterior and arteria interossa posterior. And posterior interossal artery gives arteria recurrens interossa, and it makes anastomosis with arteria collateralis media. These two arteries makes anastomosis. That is why in the region of elbow joint we have network between collateral and recurrence arteries. And this network has name areta articularis cubiti. This diagram not necessary to draw, but you need to answer names all of these arteries and all of these anastomosis between collateral and recurrence arteries. Clear? Well.
So only for this part or all of those drawings?
What?
Only this part or all drawing?
No. In time of mini exam in heart and arteries, you will draw only one diagram, that is a Willis cycle, that is all. All another diagrams only for your understanding. Next time, axillary artery, then brachial artery, and here it is, you need to know this anastomosis and names of recurrence arteries, partly here in radial, partly in ulnar artery, but radial, and whole ulnar arteries, the same like arteries of the arm and hand, you will answer next time. That is why just axillary and brachial artery and name of anastomosis in network. You can see this diagram and answer arteria recurrens ulnaris radialis and arteria recurrens interossa in diagram. That is why axillary and brachial arteries next time. Now let's go to the museum and clavicle, we remove clavicle from here. Clavicle, and you can see that is a first rib, yes? And here external edge of the first rib, that is a border between subclavian artery, here it is subclavian, and next is axillary artery. Here it is, I put clavicle, look here, that is musculus pectoralis, what is it? Minor, lesser pectoral muscle, and space between clavicle and this muscle, that is trigonum clavipectorale, clavipectoral triangle. Then behind of lesser pectoral muscle, pectoral triangle, and inferiorly from lower edge of musculus pectoralis minor, that is subpectoral triangle. Clear it is, and we can see that in first department from axillary artery in clavipectoral triangle, two branches. Here it is arteria thoracica superior, and this artery, that is arteria thoracoacromialis. It goes to deltoid muscle and shoulder joint. Clear? Now I remove deltoid muscle, I remove lesser pectoral muscle. In second triangle, in pectoral triangle, should be arteria thoracica lateralis, but here it is absent. And only in subpectoral triangle, we can see branches. Look here, this artery, that is arteria circumflexa humeri anterior, this one, arteria circumflexa humeri posterior. They surround humerus near the neck, surgical neck of the humerus, and makes anastomosis one with another. And last branch, and it is largest branch, that is arteria subscapularis. Arteria subscapularis subdivides into two, that is arteria circumflexa scapula, and this artery goes into foramen trilaterum, and arteria thoraco-dorsalis goes to latissimus dorsi, musculus teres major, and supplies them. Arteria circumflexa scapula makes anastomosis with arteria suprascapularis. Look here, that is arteria suprascapularis, arteria suprascapularis from thyrocervical trunk. And now we try to see anastomosis between circumflexa scapula and arteria suprascapularis. I want to remove, here it is, some muscles. And humerus, and look here, that is arteria circumflexa, this one, okay, that is arteria circumflexa scapula, that is arteria circumflexa scapula, and here it is arteria suprascapularis, and they makes anastomosis. Here it is, space should be joined together behind the scapula, on dorsal surface of scapula. That is anastomosis between suprascapular and circumflexa scapula. That is why, if in time of operation necessary to tie axillary artery, it is better to do it above of arteria subscapularis. Here it is. If you cut axillary artery here, in this case, blood from subclavian artery goes to truncus thyrocervicalis, then it goes to arteria suprascapularis, then continues into arteria circumflexa scapula, arteria subscapularis, and goes to brachial artery and supply a hand with the blood. That is why if you cut axillary artery below from subscapular artery, in this case, blood not continues to upper extremity. That is a problem. Hancrena develops in this case, and that is a problem. That is why, in time of operation, more better to tie or cut axillary artery above of arteria subscapularis, because we have anastomosis between suprascapular and circumflexa scapular artery. And now, brachial artery, arteria brachialis, arteria brachialis. That is that is the largest branch of brachial artery, arteria profunda brachii, and arteria profunda brachii subdivides into arteria collateralis radialis and arteria collateralis media. Another branches from brachial artery, they are arteria collateralis ulnaris superior and just a moment. Yes, that it is another artery that is superior collateral, and it is inferior, arteria collateralis ulnaris inferior. And they makes anastomosis inferior artery with arteria recurrens ulnaris anterior and collateralis ulnaris superior. Not very clear to see. Okay, I remove ulna and we will see. And now, collateralis ulnaris superior makes anastomosis with recurrens ulnaris inferior, and collateralis ulnaris inferior makes with recurrens ulnaris posterior. That is superior, it is inferior. And inferior makes anastomosis with collateralis recurrens ulnaris anterior, and it is arteria collateralis radialis makes anastomosis with recurrens radialis, and collateralis media makes anastomosis with recurrens interossa from interossa communis. That is anastomosis between them. One again, that is recurrens interossa and collateralis media. And now we can see network of the elbow joint, rete articularis cubiti. Well, that is all today. Axillary and brachial arteries next time. Your questions?